Well, hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. I wanted to make a follow-up video on the Ecovacs OMNI X1 that I reviewed here several weeks back on my YouTube channel. I had a couple of subscribers respond that the lackluster mopping performance was due to the material used in the mopping pads and recommended me purchase a set of aftermarket mopping pads for the unit. Now, when we look at the aftermarket mopping pads here in white, they appear to be very similar. Ecovacs uses a gray and blue, and this blue in the mopping pad here is a little bit of a texturized coating to give it a little bit more scrubbing power. Now, that is absent from the aftermarket one. However, our poor mopping performance, according to the subscribers, is not due to the texture, but due to the fact that the material used on the back of the mopping pads does not allow it to absorb water. Water just kind of beads up on this surface. And this new style mopping pad, while it looks to be very much so similar, is a different material that will quickly absorb the water as it is being dropped on the pad. Now today we're going to do a little bit of an experiment, and I'm going to do a real life test. I have 1 milliliter of water here. Let me get you zoomed in here so we can see this really well. And we are going to test the water absorption using 1 milliliter of water on the white pad here. It looks like within a matter of seconds, all of that water has been absorbed. Now we're going to try the same thing with the pads that came with the robot itself. As we see here, the water is already pooling and staying on top of the fabric. Again, this is 1 milliliter of water. Pretty big difference there, where the water has already been absorbed into the back of the pad here on the white one. The one that came with the robot is still sitting on top there. In fact, I did this experiment off camera a few minutes ago, and the water is still sitting on the pad. This is about 10 minutes ago. As you can see here, camera to focus, I still have water sitting on top of that pad. So it appears, so far, the subscribers are absolutely right in finding out that there is a problem with these pads. If it can't absorb water, then obviously the pads won't get very wet while it's mopping and could dry out. Now you could offset that by sending it back to the dock to wash the pads more frequently, but let's see if this actually makes a difference in real life. I do my standard mopping test on tile floor with dried on baked on hot sauce, so we are going to do the same test with the new pads and see if it yields a better result. But first we're going to set a baseline with the OEM pads that came with the X1 OMNI. The OEM pads didn't do well in my review, and here again they're not doing so well, only removing about 70% of the stain after 2 passes, and that's with the water level set to the highest level, and also deep mopping is enabled, which means it'll make more passes over the stain. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at these aftermarket pads and see if they do any better. And with the aftermarket mopping pads that subscribers recommended for me, the settings for the X1 are identical, where we have it in mop only mode, deep mopping mode with the water level set to high. You'll notice in this test, just like the previous test, there isn't really a lot of water being put down on the floor. This seems to be the same amount of water for each of the pads. However, as you can see here, the results after the aftermarket mopping pads does appear that it removed about 10 to 20% more of the baked on hot sauce when compared to the OEM pads. Okay, so in conclusion, I ran a couple of tests with each of the mopping pads, the OEM ones and the aftermarket ones. And in each of the tests, I found that the aftermarket pads outperform the OEM ones. I found that quite interesting. I will leave a link to these pads if you want down in the description below. Keep in mind, this set of pads here came with a combo pack. It looks something like this. I'll put it on the screen, let you look at it. It's basically a pack of bags, filters, side spinning brushes, and an extra brush roller. It's actually a pretty good deal. You'll probably end up needing these at some point in the future, but it is a little bit extra expense. If you don't want to go for that expense, there is another alternative. This is a mopping pad from the new Dreamy L10S, and it is compatible. In fact, it is the same exact size. I just happen to be testing this. Spoiler alert, that video is coming up pretty soon. And I decided to use the mopping pad from the L10S on the OMNI X1, and the results were very similar to what we have here. So I'll leave a link down below at the time of filming here. This pad is, you get 4 of them for I think about 20 bucks. So not too bad of a deal. You don't get the extra accessories, of course, just the pads. But these seem to have worked quite well. I think these aftermarket pads help solve a problem that is inherent on the robot itself, which is that it doesn't put out enough water. You see, in testing some of the other robot vacuums, water control is very important. You put out too much and you risk ruining people's floors. You don't put out enough and you won't get any deep stains. I think this pad helps with the deficiencies with the X1 because it doesn't put out very much water. Now I am testing again the L10S from Dreamy Tech, and it does have very good water control, and the settings allow you to put down almost too much water. But even at the lowest water setting, I took the pad here from the X1 OMNI and slapped it on that, and I will tell you that the results were no different than the OEM pad. So this pad is not a problem because on the L10S, and I won't spoil the performance results of the mopping test there, but on the Dreamy Tech L10S, these two pads performed identically. So the problem is not the pad, the problem is the aftermarket pads here are helping make up for the lack of water, and doing that by having better, more absorbent materials here that grab that water. One thing you may want to do to try to compensate for this problem, if you don't want to buy pads, is maybe go ahead before you start your mopping and wash the mopping pads. Go ahead and get them good and wet. I know it washes them before the mopping job, but that way you're wetting them twice. Maybe with that extra water on the pads, it'll help get things going. All right, I hope this video was helpful for some of you out there, and look forward to the review video of the Dreamy L10S. In fact, this is it over here. That will be coming up very soon. You're not going to want to miss that. All right, everyone, I appreciate you watching. Take it easy, everyone. Bye-bye.